Y'all stop doing that, I'll make it cry.
So I want to start with the first question, which will probably be the ending question from the timeline. What are you going to do next?
Well, I've got a honey-do list like you can't imagine. See, one thing that you may not know, I can do everything construction. I can do floors, I can do sheetrock, I can do tile, I can do everything. So Kelly and Brittany both have a list for me to do some stuff. So I think I'm going to do that. I enjoy doing that so much. So I'm going to spend some time just working with my hands. And then I'm going to look at what we're going to do. Kelly has a company here. And we're not moving off. And I said Richardson passed a proclamation the other night for me. And I've served on their civil service board. I've served on their sign control board. And I love the city of Richardson. It's been the greatest place I've ever lived. I just love it. And I'll tell you, I told them, I don't see myself going anywhere to be an elections administrator because I can't take my city with me. And if you feel that way about a city, now, I could go to Collin County if Sharon Rowe decides that she wants to step down.
Please do.
I don't think she's wanting to step down, but I would only really want to do what I'm doing now. That's what I was made to do. You know, you kind of know where your skill sets are and what works for you. This works for me. I've always said I never wanted to run for election, and Joe and I have had that conversation because I don't know that I want to be in that part of it ever. And sometimes I don't like what happens when you do run for election and the things you have to deal with and the things that happen sometimes. And I don't think I want to start. I'm 54 years old, and I've got a retirement. I'll do something, but I don't think it's running for election. It's probably just work on the house.
I read that Danny left after this came up, and I don't know who else might have left. But what can we expect from those that are remaining, especially from Tony Pippen's pool?
Well, let me just say, I'm going to take completely the high road on some comments here, but I want to tell you, it wasn't just Danny, and if you know Danny, Danny and I first started working together for John Childs in the tax office 35 years ago. Danny was there when I got there 35 years ago in the appraisal district. And then he left and went to the appraisal district, came and worked for me, went and ran elections for Reno, Nevada as the administrator. Did a beautiful job there. Left because he missed Texas. They begged him not to leave. And he said to them on his way out, he said, I saw the Wizard of Oz and never understood that there's no place like home. Came back to Texas. Danny is the smartest guy I've ever known on maps. He's meticulous. He's brilliant. And so when you're asking about when I left, Danny didn't want to work without us being together there. He retired too. Now, that's voter registration. This year we have redistricting, massive redistricting in this county and across the state. I would say, if I were saying any place I would be concerned, if I were stepping into this environment, would be redistricting right now because Danny's not there and nobody can step in his place right this second. I'm not saying they can't eventually. I'm not saying they can't in a few months, but right now that's a vulnerable area. Mary Kay West. Mary Kay West, when I first started in voter registration in 1980, she was a clerk. She moved all the way up to counting station supervisor. Mary Kay West just resigned along with me, and Danny retired. She has 37 years in the county. So Mary Kay is walking with me. That's the counting station. She does all the redistricting, all the ballot layout, all the things. Now the good news on that end is there is a person working with Mary Kay. Her name's Jana. Jana Onion. She is really bright, really capable. And if Mary Kay would have retired under me, I would have put Jana right into that spot. So I think the county station's good. Voter registration might be a little iffy until they get somebody in and they get stabilized in that, but I think it'll be okay. And the reason I say that is, City of Dallas, we've held some elections. You get a street wrong, you get a street or two streets wrong, 50 people wrong, those elections are won by sometimes 2 votes. And we've had candidates file that they were in the wrong district because we didn't redistrict them right with Danny. So I'm just telling you that's always a vulnerable spot. So just watch for that, and I'm sure they're aware of that back there. I don't know anything else. I can't tell you. I will tell you. I think I was the target of Commissioner Price because I stood up to him. I stood up to him, and he even referenced that in the last conversation I had with him that I wouldn't send workers out to Duncanville from my office. And I didn't do that because I didn't want to give the appearance of interfering with the process. There had been some complaints I've received. People working at early voting locations are appointed by the parties, and that's by statute. And for us to go out there, it seemed like we were not being equitable in how we were doing that distribution. But not only that, that day Duncanville was like the 7th highest turnout location. I had 6 other locations, some of them out here, by the way, that were voting heavier than Duncanville. You see what happens when you're in my position, and you see why maybe all parties were supporting me. I wasn't going to stand up and do something I shouldn't. And I'll tell you something else. If anybody should have been mad at me, Commissioner Mayfield, I'd be wearing a big target because of him, because I didn't agree with that widespread vote fraud campaign he was doing because I didn't see it. I didn't have a single complaint from absentee ballot, and I said it publicly. I didn't see that. And also, I really came down and sent a letter to all the commissioners' members when one of his administrative assistants came to a training class and tried to, in a way, overtake my training class. I was almost furious, if you want to know how I felt about it. I wrote a letter and I fired it off. He sent me a response back a couple of days later saying he agreed, and he talked to the assistant that did that. That was so I didn't give the appearance that we had people going to, especially someone on the ballot, fighting a race that could have gone either way. So he could have been more mad at me. And you know what? That's the luck of the draw. If he'd won, I might have been gone anyway because of him. So who knows? But it's okay. It's okay, and it is part of the nature of the beast. And I'll be there for any of you if you want to call and ask me questions. I don't think, and I'm telling you in response, I don't think people are going to be changing vote totals. I don't think anybody's going to go in the heat of the night and try to do something. I think at the worst case scenario, there might be a little bit of overzealous influence in some things. And it doesn't have to do with vote totals, and it doesn't have to do with anything that jeopardizes the integrity of the count. I'm just telling you, I have no reason to lie to you about that, especially. But I don't think so. I just think it might be a little bit of a situation. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to do a national search. I think they're going to get somebody in here. I think they're going to get somebody in here that is not tied in. I'm hoping, because I think there's too much baggage and there's too much of not feeling good about the situation. And you got to have somebody start with a clean slate, somebody start fresh. I just think that would be the best approach. And I've heard from some people that I kind of believe that there may be, and if that happens, I think everything's going to get back on track, and it won't be a problem. I don't know. That's what I'm hoping for.